It's Mike here. I know I had promised you some more videos when I was on my trip to the Philippines and Australia. Didn't happen. Main reason being I had only had my Windows laptop with me, and I just don't find any video editing tools on there that I really like. So, subsequent to the last video, I took my two business trips. I went home to the United States, took a holiday with the family. That was nice. Certainly wasn't going to try to do any work on there. Failed a little bit, had to do some work for the office. But for the most part, I tried to stay disconnected. I was home from my holiday for about 8 hours, and I got on a plane again, and I'm now back in Sydney, Australia, which is where I'm working. But this time I brought my MacBook with me, so I can finish making some of these videos. So I put together this basic video on my current NAS setup. So if you remember from my past few videos, I built an UnRAID server. I explained a little bit how that works. From my perspective and what I'm using it for, it's been a wild success. And if you remember also, the catalyst for my building the UnRAID server was my QNAP server had blown up for the second time in a year, and the time it took to get repaired was just too much downtime for me. It wasn't acceptable. Um, since that time, the QNAP's come back, and I've been trying to find a role for it. The resale value of it wasn't really enough for my dealing with eBay and all the stuff you got to deal with that. So I decided to use it. I put a couple drives in it. Um, Still not sure I want to trust it with data that might eventually go away. Um, so I started looking at it and what does it offer me that the UnRAID server doesn't. One of them is the ability to access my files from the cloud. It's got a feature called My QNAP Cloud. Lets you access your files, media, audio, everything from a mobile device, from your laptop, uh, and you don't have to open any inbound ports into your network. It goes through sort of a proxy server that QNAP runs. Doesn't cost you anything. I guess they build it into the cost of the unit. So I kind of wanted to take advantage of that. So one of the things I noticed with the QNAP is I was able to map back-end drives basically to other network resources. So basically what I did was I put the QNAP on the front end so I could access my files, and then opened up back-end shares into my UnRAID server. Um, so I'm going to go through a couple slides I put together kind of explaining how my network looks. In this first slide over here, see if I can get my head in this video where I can superimpose the slide. Okay, how's that? Uh, in this first slide, I talk a little bit about the QNAP server I have. It's a TS-451 Celeron processor. Uh, it's not a very powerful unit, but you really won't notice it. It's a very efficient OS. The web interface is fantastic. I think the only other one that comes close might be Synology. It actually supports virtualization. I had run Windows servers on it. For the most part, it's a really nice box, and if I could fix it myself, I'd still be using it as my primary server. And that's kind of what that comes down to, proprietary hardware. My UnRAID box dies, I can go down to Micro Center, buy a part, come back, have it up and running in a couple hours. The QNAP goes down, I got to get an RMA number from QNAP, put it in a box, at cost, ship it out to them, wait. Typically the last two times came back in about a month, and then fire it back up. So anyway, that's the one negative, is the proprietary hardware with it. Things I like about the QNAP: excellent OS. It works fantastic, easy to use. It's very fast. Uh, I have never been, I mean, as far as all the different NAS units I've tried, this ranks right up there as one of the fastest, even with the Celeron processor. So, and actually that's probably because I'm capping out my Ethernet at this point. I could probably, if I went to, I don't know, if I upped the internet or put in multi Ethernet cables, I could probably speed that up. Didn't really have a need to. It's fast enough for what I'm trying to do. And again, excellent remote access tools. Oh, one other thing I didn't mention before. The QNAP actually has an app store. So a lot of them are developed by QNAP themselves. There are third-party apps out there, everything from content management. I think there's even like a Donkey Kong game for it. which is just kind of a proof of concept to show what you can do on the box. For content management, backups, so you can back up to things like, I don't know, Carbonite and whatever all those other cloud backup services are, even including Amazon. Uh, there's an app, I think, to back up your Gmail account if you use Gmail, so it'll actually bring local copies. I think they're in MBOX format to your local NAS. There's NAS to NAS backup tools, which is handy because actually the drives that I have in the QNAP, I back up critical files off the UnRAID box. So I also put down what I don't like. I kind of mentioned all those earlier. The proprietary hardware. By the way, I don't want to put down QNAP too much. Their support personnel is excellent. Every time I've had them on the phone, they've been very willing to help me. It's just the turnaround time that bothers me. And forgive me, I'm losing my voice a bit. I think too much international travel. But anyway, just my UnRAID 6 server. That's the case I put in. I've discussed that in previous videos. Personal built server for my own. I basically spec'd it out myself. I happen to use an AMD processor in this. Why? It was on sale and it met the needs. If I was building a commercial server, I'd probably use an Intel processor, probably a server grade motherboard. Probably go with ECC memory as well. For a media server for my home, I don't care. I just wanted to get something that would work. I mean, most of the stuff that's on is replaceable. The stuff that's not is backed up elsewhere. It's more the ability to access it when I have it. So, oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention, even if this entire thing blew up, I can still pull the drives out, plug it into another computer, and get access to the data. Basically, it's just a Linux file system. So what I do like about UnRAID 6, I built the hardware myself, which just means if it fails, I can fix it. It supports, the UnRAID itself, it supports mixing drives, so I don't necessarily, like with the QNAP or with most NAS systems, if you're going to use RAID 5, the drives all have to be matching, so you'd have 4 or 5 drives of 3 terabytes each. That would provide redundancy if any one drive fails. UnRAID's a little bit different. You could mix 3 terabyte, 4 terabyte, 1 terabyte, 500 gig, whatever drive you got, and it uses them. It just fills them up as needed. Now, you don't get the performance advantage you would normally get out of striping, but you do get the flexibility of just using drives you got laying around. So it makes for a nice, inexpensive, and very flexible home NAS system. So if I was trying to do RAID 5, I would have to start with a minimum of 3 drives just to get up and running. So, and if I wanted to do 4 terabyte drives, now you're looking at a multi-$100 investment, even if I only had a couple hundred megs of files to store. So, whereas with UnRAID, I can start with a single drive, add in a parity drive for redundancy. As I run out of space, add more drives and grow them. So, and again, I have an earlier video on that. I really encourage you to watch it. Support, unlike on Synology, QNAP, who else? Well, any of the major NAS manufacturers, you don't call a company to get support. I mean, you can get some support from the UnRAID software themselves, but they're not going to be able to help you with your hardware because you built it. But there is a community out there. There's a support forum, a lot of people that use it, and I got to tell you, after talking to some of the people, the support's at least as good as anything you're going to get from a commercial company. So it's more of a peer-to-peer support, and my opinion at this point is really very much of a hobbyist product. So you find people out there that are kind of UnRAID geeks, if you will. So just a quick slide as to what my current system looks like. So currently I have 3 4 terabyte drives, and that just they don't have to be all 4 terabyte. I just happen to have them. Remember, I took these out of my QNAP unit. So that's my array of drives. I also have a 4 terabyte parity drive, and that provides redundancy for any one of those drives failing. And again, the other nice thing about UnRAID, let's say 2 drives failed. Let's say I lost my parity drive and one other drive. I've only lost data from one drive. The other 2 drives' data is intact. That's something you don't get with RAID 5. And I also added in a a 1 terabyte cache disk. It's just a Western Digital Blue because that's what I had. Now, the reason for this is when you write data using the parity drive, it does tend to slow down the writes after, if I remember, it's about 20 seconds into the write. I'm sure it's got more to do with data size, but what happens is the processor kicks in and it's trying to write the parity information. So what the cache drive does is it kind of alleviates that write speed problem. When you save a file into your UnRAID server, it'll write it to the cache drive at full speed so you can continue working. And then there's a process in the background called a mover that takes that data and puts it actually into the array with the parity information. And what that does, it allows you to save files to your NAS faster. If you're worried about losing data on your cache drive, you can add a second cache drive. I didn't want to do that, so my solution was when I copy something up to my NAS, I just don't delete it from the source until after the mover's finished, which typically runs at night. So that's another option as well. The challenges I had with my UnRAID server were remote access mostly. There's no cloud access. I've been pretty harsh on UnRAID for security, but to be fair, you really can't, you shouldn't put any NAS really open to the outside world, because as soon as a security hole is found, it's going to be exploited and that's your data. But since UnRAID themselves don't have a corporate cloud server, it's not as simple as what you're trying to do with like a Synology or a QNAP. So my options here were either use a VPN into a home connection, which I do use. I have a VPN server set up and it allows me to get to everything when I'm on the road. BitTorrent sync sort of becomes a personal cloud without a cloud server. What happens is it syncs between all your devices that happen to have BitTorrent sync on there, and I'll probably do a video on that at some point. Not quite as flexible as Dropbox, but the same concept. Now, the downside to that is it only allows me to access files that I've set up as a BitTorrent sync share. So it, again, sort of like a Dropbox, but if I need to access files that are not within that share, I'm going back to either VPN or, well, pretty much VPN at this point. There's also a product called OwnCloud, which I have not experimented with yet, but it is supported on UnRAID. It's supported on pretty much every NAS manufacturer. I just haven't had time to set it up, but I will, and I'll probably make a video on that at some point too. Now, you cannot remotely administer your NAS without spinning up VPN. So if you're planning on taking road trips, as I do a lot, make sure you have your VPN set up before you leave if you need to do anything at all with your server. The other things I'm not a big fan of with UnRAID is the UI configuration, or the UI itself. User interface is not quite as robust as you might find in a commercial product. It's certainly usable, not quite as intuitive. It works. Lastly, there are apps sort of for UnRAID. It's not as simple as going to an app store like you would on my QNAP server and clicking install and everything works. There's something called Dockers, which is actually a Linux concept, I believe. That will run on your UnRAID server, and there are various apps there to do that. Like there's a Dropbox one, there's a backup one. I've got a few of them deployed right now. They work very well. It's sort of like a lightweight virtual machine. They run sandboxed, such as a virtual machine, but it doesn't have all the overhead of a virtual machine. Each Docker has its own file system, really, so everything's internal. They work really well, but they are, if you're not a technical person, they can be complicated. So just to be forewarned with that. So especially if you're a new user with this, watch a few videos on Dockers, because that'll start to make it come clear. But again, that's the app solution for UnRAID. So if I had a choice between these two boxes, clearly I like these commercial products, these NAS appliances. Again, I'm going to mention it, QNAP and Synology. I like the remote access tools. The problem I have, again, is the reliability. So I've lost faith in the product, if you will. I love the build it yourself nature of UnRAID. I like building my own hardware. It's excellent for a media server. I like the community support. So my TS-451 came back. What am I going to do with it? I decided to build a hybrid solution between my two servers. My servers are, I named them, my servers are called Anna and Elsa. Go ahead and make fun of me. I'm a grown man. I like Frozen. Anyway, so that's the theme I have. My Anna, which is the QNAP server, has 3 Western Digital drives right now, 3 terabyte. Drives are currently deployed as a cache solution for things I need to access remotely, and as a backup of frequently used files from ELSA, which is the UnRAID server. I use rsync to synchronize the files between the two, so regardless of which server I update the files on, they will stay in sync, and they sort of act as a backup for each other. QSync is an app that comes with the QNAP server that can be used as a Dropbox replacement. It really works exactly like Dropbox. It's got an app for your mobile device, whether it's Android or iOS. It's got apps for both Windows and the Mac, so like even this machine I'm recording it on right now in the background, it'll be syncing to my my QNAP server. And that is also one of my hosts for my BitTorrent sync. So that's another app that runs on there. Elsa, which is my UnRAID server, that contains all of my media files. So the media room at home, where we watch movies, all those movies are actually stored on the Elsa server, and we use Plex on it to stream it to the TV. And Plex is also pretty nice. By the way, it's fully supported on both of these NAS units right now, but Plex is kind of nice because if you pay a little money for the remote app, you can actually stream it while you're on the road. So even down here in Australia, I can watch videos from my server at the house. That's also my primary server for internal network mapping. So pretty much any system in my house is going to have a drive mapped to ELSA for file storage and backups and pretty much what have you. Again, it's a BitTorrent sync. Again, I'm losing my voice. I'm sorry. It's a BitTorrent sync host. So just having these two servers run BitTorrent sync keeps those files in sync and backed up. So honestly, BitTorrent sync is not a primary file storage for me right now. It's something I often use to back up photos I've taken on the road. But for the most part, I'm still trying to find a place in my workflow for it. And the important part here is if you look on the slide from my ELSA server is I can access all of my files via my QNAP cloud via mappings. So I can access the remote access tools, let's say even from my iPad. I can connect to Anna, and then I can get to any file on ELSA because there's a mapping on the back end to it. So really this becomes a best of both worlds solution. I've got all the flexibility of an UnRAID server as far as hardware goes, as far as reliability goes, as far as repairs go, and I got all the remote access tools of QNAP. So I kind of really like how this solution came together. And if the Anna server were to die on me again, and I had to send it off for repairs, I still can fall back to my VPN solution I had mentioned earlier to get to all my files. There's nothing critical on Anna that's not also on ELSA at this point. So it's actually serving as a backup. So if it went down, I would be out nothing other than time to repair it. But I can still get to all my files. I'd have 0 downtime. I really like that idea. Got a network server layout here, and basically it just shows you where the My QNAP cloud is. My router. Hold on. I'm blind. Oh yeah, I do have a hardware firewall in place, which for security reasons I'm not going to mention what it is or how that's deployed. Got the Anna server there mapped back to the ELSA server. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention earlier is I actually have a Windows 2012 server running on ELSA, which is the UnRAID box. That also supports virtual machines, and right now I've just got it set up as a database server for some development projects I'm working on. So, just some summary stuff. If I were starting from scratch today, I wouldn't even give it a second thought. I'd build an UnRAID box. I'd avoid the pain of hardware, proprietary hardware repair. If I needed a commercial server, I probably wouldn't use UnRAID incorporation. I probably would at least try FreeNAS. Um, that seems to have more of a commercial focus. It's also got more hardware requirements. For new users, if you don't really want to tinker with hardware, you don't really want to have to learn Dockers or the user interface with UnRAID, I might recommend QNAP, Synology, or one of the other NAS products. I would highly recommend either, if it's mission critical and it's where it starts to get costly, either keep a hot spare unit, or I think these companies for a price will sell you a service repair plan, um, where they send you a spare as soon as you go down before you send back the unit. I haven't researched it much, but keep in mind all warranties do come to an end, so at some point you're going to be back on your own where you're going to have to send it off and probably pay for repairs. So it really comes down to your needs. Do you want the ease of use and have to deal with sending it off for repair and waiting for it, or are you comfortable building hardware, um, installing a NAS product and configuring it yourself? I can't answer that for you without knowing who you are and what your needs are. So I'm just trying to give you some high level guidance here. Um, and again, since I do have the QNAP hardware and I don't feel like selling it and I like certain things about it, uh, I'm basically able to use it to provide a kind of unique solution for my needs. So that's back to the middle. That's really all I got. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just kind of trying to show you some creative ways you can do your NAS solutions. So for now, for me, I'm still down in Australia for another week and a half. Um, Currently scheduled to go to Canada after that, so we'll see how that works out. Uh, Looking forward to getting home for a few days too. I'll try to do another couple videos while I'm down here. In the meantime, have a great day. Take care.